Hello, well we promised you some more videos in addition to our main fortnightly show, and to kick us off my mate Rich Saunders is taking a look at an absolute classic gas ram airgun, the Theoben Sirocco.
Hello and welcome to what I hope is going to be a fairly regular feature on the channel, where we're going to be looking at older rifles, classic rifles, and we're kicking things off with one of my all-time favourite rifles and an absolute classic. This is the Theoben Sirocco Deluxe. It's actually my rifle and I had to wait decades to get this. I really did. It's a .22 caliber FAC rifle, putting around about 16-18 foot-pounds. The Scirocco lineup was introduced in 1982 and comprises several different models. This one is the walnut stocked deluxe. There's a beech stocked rifle called the Countryman. There's a thumbhole rifle marketed as the Grand Prix, and then later on they introduced a classic model which had a slightly more swollen forend here, and then the 2000 model that had almost like raised platforms of checkering on the forend. As many of you will know, Theoben invented the whole category of gas ram rifles, inspired apparently by the suspension forks on a Suzuki GS1000 motorbike. And what that basically means is that instead of having a mainspring in the chamber up here to provide the power, you have a sealed chamber of gas. So when you break the barrel, pull the barrel down to cock the rifle, instead of compressing a mainspring, you're compressing the gas in that chamber, and then when you pull the trigger, the gas expands again and picks the pellet up in the breech and pushes it down the barrel. It was generally accepted that for 12 foot-pound guns, early guns that had a longer stroke, you needed about 300 psi in the chamber down here. And then when Theoben introduced HE models, which used a high efficiency or HE gas strut, it had a shorter stroke but needed around about 800 psi. But the thing with Theobens is they have this valve on the back. It's called a Schrader valve. Now it's exposed on my rifle because it was made as an FAC rifle, but even on 12 foot-pound rifles, if you take the action out of the stock and prise a plastic cap off the back of the action, it exposes this valve. And that basically means that you can attach an airline or a pump to it, and you can pump it up and increase the PSI, the pressure in the chamber, and therefore increase the power output for the gun. Now, if you're sitting on a Theoben Sirocco 12 foot-pounds at home and you think that sounds like a good idea, bear in mind, number one, you will probably make your rare rifle into an illegal firearm unless you have a firearm certificate with a variation slot on it. And secondly, there's a very good chance you'll blow the piston seal, and they are like hen's teeth at the moment, really hard to get hold of. Now, a number of different companies donated parts to the Scirocco. Early models had Webley open sights and a Webley barrel, and then after a while Theoben replaced the Webley barrels with Anschutz barrels, which are a real step up, but Webley continued to provide the triggers through much of the run of the rifle. Now, unfortunately, Theoben is long gone. The company went bust. Don't confuse it with Rapid Air Weapons RAW, which is the sort of spiritual successor to Theoben, but yeah, not the same company. But before they shuffled off this mortal airgun coil, they did collaborate with Weihrauch to produce the Weihrauch HW90, a joint collaboration between Theoben and Weihrauch, and that rifle obviously is still a gas ram and is still in market today, and is a great rifle, by the way. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the rifle from back to front like we usually do. We'll talk about the key features, zoom in on those key features as well, and then we'll take it down the range, put a few pellets through it and see how it shoots. So let's talk vital statistics then. So the Theoben Sirocco Deluxe is 113 centimeters from butt to muzzle, and that includes this steel silencer, and it weighs about 3.5 kilos or 7.5 pounds. Now, those are fairly contemporary figures for a rifle of this type made even today. The barrel itself is 20 inches long, or 510 millimeters including the silencer, and the length of pull is a fairly standard 355 millimeters or 14 inches as well. Now, starting at the back of the rifle, you have this ventilated rubber shoulder pad. It's a little bit squishy, very comfortable, and it's finished off with quite a thick black spacer and a thinner white spacer, which really sets it off nicely, I think. Now the Sirocco Deluxe was available either as a dedicated left-handed or right-handed rifle, and this is a right-handed rifle, so it has quite a pronounced cheek piece on the side here, and that flows up into a rolled over comb, which is very stylish and very comfortable as well. Really sets you up nicely to look down the rifle. Forward of that is the pistol grip. Now the pistol grip is quite steeply raked, swells nicely to fill your hand as well, makes it very comfortable, and there are panels of checkering on either side as well. The trigger, so this is a Webley trigger, and now I don't know if I've just been lucky and I've got a good one or it's been worked on, but the trigger on my rifle is really good. Two very distinctive stages, and the let-off is very predictable and as clean as anything as well. Now it's certainly a better trigger than the one on my Webley Springers, put it that way. The trigger guard itself is a sort of an iconic Theoben Sirocco shape. It has this sort of quite sloped front to it and a vertical back end to it. And then forward of that you have this lovely long fore end that tapers towards the front and also has panels of checkering on either side. Now, because this is an FAC rifle, that Schrader valve that I talked about is exposed, but I understand that on 12 foot-pound rifles it's covered up by a plastic cover, and because this is quite an early model, there's no safety catch on this at all. On the top, peculiar to Theobens, is this moulded or this welded scope rail, which is a little bit raised and comes with these two rings. Now I'm sure someone somewhere will have worked out a way of changing these rings, but as far as I understand it, you're limited as standard to 1-inch rings, which is basically what the scopes were back in the day. Negates any kind of question of scope creep, as long as your scope doesn't move within the rings themselves. The only slight drawback with it is that obviously you can't use scopes that have bigger than a 1-inch tube, and also I'm limited to a 40mm objective lens on the scope, which does take it down nice and close to the action, but you know, that's really what you're limited to scope wise. There's lots of metal around the breech down here, holds it nice and tightly. Very unlikely to get any movement with this. If you do, there's a big bolt here that you can nip up if you do notice any play in the breech over time. And then you have a sling swivel around the barrel on the front here. There's no sling swivel on the back, and I'm certainly not brave enough to start taking a drill to my beautiful walnut stock. And then the barrel is finished off with this steel silencer. So I think that's all the main features on the rifle. What we'll do now is we'll zero in on some of those to show them to you in close-up, and then we'll take the rifle down the range and have a bit of a shoot with it.
They're both my rifles.
So I've popped down to Reading Air Target Shooting Club to give the Sirocco Deluxe a bit of a shoot. I put a target out at 25 metres, so we'll see how we get on.
Okay, so that's something in the middle. Yeah, interesting.
I'm going to take 10 shots with this.
So I'll give these a go today. And I'm bringing them up, get them up for us. I sent it right to a guy in Lancashire. I found on the Airgun forum, and then again to
First thing that I recall, having not shot this for a while, is how heavy the trigger is. This Webley trigger. That's my excuse.
sort of grain. Okay. And now that is almost extends it. So we're having this thing that works.
It breaks and cocks really smoothly, although there is a bit of a click on the bottom end when you cock it, which could give you away in the field, I guess, but you can carry a gas ram around fully cocked for as long as you like, although this particular model didn't have a safety catch.
And it should be checked every 10 years, but when I went to that place they say,
there's that click.
If you send it in,
As with any brake barrel, it's always worth holding on to the barrel while you're cocking the action, so it doesn't spring up should the trigger release while you're in the process of cocking the rifle.
And that was me sending it, I sent it to him, and he refurbished it. I mean, it was just not good. Yeah, just got the license and he just sent
Benefit out of that one. I'm using GSB Hades pellets. They're 15.89 grams, I believe.
They didn't get the mixture right, so this is on YouTube. And he said, let me show you, and as he pulls the bubble wrap off this thing, and it just irritates to the point where you can't handle it. So he said, take the thing back,
A couple more to go.
get it all off, and then you've got a big step and then it's a case of him finding a grain on it, and then you choose the finish. But he said, that's a great idea. He said, if you want a grey wolf lamp like this, all very nice, I can do that. And I said, oh, I've seen the black one.
Last one.
I took most of the so yeah, it's kind of all good. We even did the hamsters. When the hamsters come in, so I put that together, put lines in shape, please. And all this and
Well, that's all 10 shots. Wait till the bell goes down here at Reading Air Target Shooting Club, and I go and check on the group. Right, let's see how we did then. That's not too bad at all. So let me get this into focus a little bit. So that's 10 shots at 25 meters. And you can see there, it's my fingernail, just how big that is. All within, I would say, 3/4 of an inch or so of each other. And that's with the 15.89 grain JSB Exacts. Well, I hope you found that interesting. That was a quick rundown on the Theoben Sirocco Deluxe gas ram, around about 1982, 1983, I think, this rifle. Anyway, hope you found that interesting. If you did, please hit the like button and also share with us your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to check out the airgunextra.com website. Thanks for watching.